Hello everyone. Today we're going to look at creating a very basic Flowcode component. So a component in Flowcode is a library of code, and here today we're going to just make a library with some maths functions. Now you can take a section of the code that you use in a lot of projects and you can wrap it into a component, and that means that you can reuse your code very easily from project to project. To begin, I'm going to create a new project. And it doesn't really matter what I choose here. As we're making a library, what does matter is if we select an embedded or an app developer. If we select embedded, then the component will be designed for embedded targets. It will always be available for an embedded target, and then we can choose if we want to make it available for PC developer. If we start off with a PC developer project, then it will always be a PC developer component, but we can choose if we want to make it available for embedded. If we start off with the web developer project, then it will only be available in the web developer. So that's just something to keep in mind. I'm going to create quite a generic component that's going to be available in embedded and app developer. So I'm going to choose an embedded, and I'm just going to select any old device. So I'm going to choose the BL0011, which is a simple pick e-block. I'm going to select new project. Once the new project has been created, I first want to drag on the item that's going to be my placeholder on the panel. This is what indicates the components that you have in your project. So we need something on the panel to indicate the library. So under component libraries, I'm going to use the search feature, and I'm just going to type in lib for lib. Right at the bottom under MISC we have this library component, and so this is the basis of a simple component. And then we also have a sensor library component. This is the same thing but with a load of sliders like you might have seen on some of our sensor components. So let's just use the library component, and here's a very standard text box. There's a number of features that this brings to the table, so you can have things like communication indicators. You can have things like the connection icons. But for now we're gonna just have a default box, and we're going to give it a title. And our title is going to be user created library. So we've created our GUI for our component. So now we need to create some code for it to have embedded inside it. So I'm going to create a new macro. So I'll double click new macro, and here I'm going to call it add. I'm going to give it a description. So adds together two parameters to provide a return. Under parameters I'm going to give it two numbers, so A and B, and then for a return I'm going to give it a return. Now inside this function I'm simply going to add a calculation, and I'm just going to say dot return is equal to dot A plus dot B. So a super simple calculation, but just to highlight the simplicity of creating macros for a component. So I'm then going to go to File and Export, and I'm going to go to Edit the export settings for your component. Here the component needs a name, so I'm going to give it a name, so user created library. The author is me. A cosmetic name, so this is the name that appears in the component library drop down menu. So I'm just going to give it the same as that, but maybe with some spaces in, make it look a bit nicer. Here we can give it an icon. I think it requires a 24 by 24 pixel bitmap if you want to give it a specific icon, or you can just use the default. Where do we want to show our component? So I might put it into maybe into the math category. I'm going to give it a little description, so very basic component to demonstrate component creation. Under advanced we have a number of features, so we have things like scalars and aspect ratios. We have things like who can see inside the component, so by default it's pro users, or we can set it to anyone can look inside it. We can also have this GUID. Now this is a unique identifier that is a unique reference to our component. You might find that if you're copying and pasting a component source and reusing it as the basis for a different component, then you might already have some text here to tell you what the component is already exported as. So if this already exists as something else, then you might need to go in here and edit and then click the new button to generate a new GUID to make a new unique component. Here we can use the tick box to say if the component's going to appear in the app developer version of the software. So yes, let's make it app developer compatible. And then we have the interface tab. So these are the macros that are in the program, and then this is what's currently available. So currently my add macro is flagged as a hidden macro. So I want to make this a downloadable macro. And what that means is that this is available as a public macro for both download and simulation. And you can see if I want to add an override so that the simulation macro is something else, then I could add something different here. Under resources we could have any files or DLLs that are included in the component. And that's all there is to it really. So once we're done with the settings, we can click OK, and then we can go to export this project as a component. So it wants me to save my file, so I'm going to save this file as, give it a file name, and then it wants me to export my component FCPX file. So this is an exported component file. So if I go to my desktop and I add a new folder, which is components, and go in there, then I can export this FCPX file there. In Flowcode I want to be able to point it to my new components directory. So if I go to File, Global Settings, and then click on the Locations tab, then you can see I have a box at the bottom that says Look for Components In. So I'm going to add a new directory, which is my desktop components folder. And you might need to add at the end of the line a semicolon. Okay. If I now go to File and New Project, let's now make a PC developer project. And hopefully my component is available from Component Libraries, Math. And here you see it's at the bottom. user created library. So I can drag it on. I can see the functions I've created. I can call the macro, so let's say 5 plus 7, and let's assign that to a return variable, result. And then let's just create a loop here with a breakpoint. And so hopefully, if we run this, then we see that 5 plus 7 is 12. So many thanks for watching. I hope this has been useful. I've been Ben Rowland, and goodbye for now.